My name is John Christie. I'm currently a professor within the plant science group at the University of Glasgow within the Institute of Molecular Cell and Systems Biology. What inspired my interest in plant science? I think probably from an early age I had an elderly neighbour that showed me how to grow my own fruit and vegetables. So I was about 11 or 12 at the time, so that got me interested in plant science. At school, I got more interested in the biology, and specifically plant biology. At university, I got more interested in the sort of biochemistry and cell signaling aspect. I was particularly interested in how the environment can manipulate plant growth. So from there, I got interested in understanding how light can control the development of plants, particularly from the cell signaling level. So that's where I got sort of transitioned in. What are the current hot topics in my field? I would go for one that's not necessarily linked to plant science, but comes from the study of plant photoreceptors. So we know a lot about how plant photoreceptors work at the molecular level. So there is a science now called optogenetics, which has utilized that information of plant photoreceptors. People have actually made hybrid proteins, artificial photoswitches, and they've used these genetic tools to understand more about how brain function works in animal systems. So by using these tools, you can start to manipulate brain function and dissect processes involved in disease disorders such as Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's. Our research is focused on understanding how light coordinates various processes which serve to optimize photosynthetic efficiency and promote plant growth. So in the longer term, our research hopes to benefit society by devising new strategies in which we can manipulate plant growth and improve crop yield. Who would I see as my role model? For that, I would have to say a big inspiration has been my postdoc supervisor. That's Winslow Briggs, who is currently at the Carnegie Institute of Science in California, in Stanford. So when I went to work in his lab, he's a brilliant scientist, he still is, but he had many other activities. He's a great pianist, he's a great cook, he also volunteers for a state park. So this, I think, at that stage really brought home the importance of a good work-life balance. What's the favourite thing about my job? I would have to say that the favourite thing would be that it's constantly challenging. We always have new problems to solve. So I find that highly rewarding in order to try and tackle that. The least favourite, I would have to say, would be the fact that it gets harder and harder to switch off at the end of the day. So we're constantly switched on. We have many activities. The further you go through your academic career, these get bigger and bigger. And finding it hard to switch off and stop checking email at the end of the day is probably the worst part of the job, I think, or the hardest part. What advice would I give to early career researchers? The main advice I think I would give them would be network. I've found through my career the most enjoyable and successful aspects of my research have come from collaborations, and that would be the best advice I would give them. Yeah. Where would I like to see myself in 5 years' time? I think for that answer I would like to focus on the research aspect. I've studied plant biology fundamental aspects for a long time. We know a lot now of how light can coordinate the development of plants. I'd really like to see that research move forward and try to translate that research into crop species where we can manipulate or use the knowledge that we have gained to manipulate plant growth and increase yield of important crop species. Where would you find me if I wasn't in the office or in the lab? I would have to say that you would probably find me exercising in some shape or form. I go to the gym fairly often at the university. It's very close, it's very easy. It's a good way for me to switch off and relax. I like to run, and that's another way that I switch off and relax. I also like to draw. When I was younger, I used to draw quite a lot. So I think if I hadn't become a scientist, I think perhaps I would have become an architect or a comic book artist.